this is my question for you. Is modding really that bad? Is it really cheating? Now, in this instance of Dark Souls 2, I am using a trainer, which I would consider cheating. But I've paid for the game. They've sat in my Steam library for a few years. And with my schedule, with work, children, and other responsibilities, I don't have the time to sit down and play this game on a regular basis. So more than likely, I would get to a point to where I would never even experience the game to begin with. So I made the decision that to be able to experience some of the game and enjoy a product that I did pay for, I was gonna figure out a way to play it on my terms. Now, I understand that there are purists out there, especially in the Souls community, that would complain and get upset. When I'm playing these games, I'm actually offline, so there's no way that I am imposing or directly affecting anybody else that is playing. And I'm still supporting the developer by purchasing the game, which I have. So at that point, why can it not be my prerogative, if I see fit, to alter the game or to use a trainer to alter my stats to make it a more pleasant experience for the conditions that are imposed upon me, so that I can experience this game in any form. Now, I've gotten way farther in both Dark Souls 1 and Scholar of the First Sin by doing these methods, and I'm really enjoying it. I live streamed one instance, and I recorded this instance, but at the same time, I would have never sat down and really started enjoying these games the way that I have. I've actually gotten into some of the lore, I've gotten into the gameplay, and basically what I'm doing is I'm learning some of the maps, I'm learning the layout of the castles, and I'm practicing once in a, when I get the opportunity to learn how to dodge, parry, in the hope that maybe like over my vacation this year I can take some time and actually try to play the game on a legitimate basis. There's also the fact that I have now learned of the existence of Demon Souls for the PlayStation 3. It has made me want to go back and look into that game, and I can't do these methods with that game. So then I am forced to use the knowledge that I have acquired to play that game legitimately. I've also decided that I will possibly get Dark Souls 3, as to where I never intended on getting it, because I had 1 and 2 that I never played, I never beat. I didn't see a point of having it just in my Steam library or on my Xbox for no reason when I never got to that point with the other games. So, I'm kind of at a disadvantage with Bloodborne because it's not on PC or the Xbox. I guess I could use my son's PlayStation 4, which is a huge possibility. I could buy that game, and now I would actually be more driven to do that on the basis of I've played some of 1 and 2. I'm hoping to actually get the full experience out of them at some point, but for now I'm really enjoying, like, especially the DS fix on Prepare to Die edition of Dark Souls 1. And I'm also enjoying Dark Souls 2, having the trainer and just playing around with it. Again, I don't personally think that there's an issue whenever I've already paid for the game, I've supported the developers, I'm not hindering anybody else's gameplay by doing it. And, you know, it might be looked down upon, but at some point, it becomes, you get to an age at times, well, like I did, I got to an age to where I enjoy playing video games as a stress reducer, as if I can get to that. But gaming is not life for me. Gaming is not something that drives me day to day. And when I sit down to want to play, I want to know that I am not wasting my time and that I am enjoying the content that I'm consuming. And up until the point that I decided to mod and use the trainers, I would have never gave these games a chance. Especially with the very first Dark Souls. I've tried to start that game for like 3 or 4 years now while it's been in my Steam library, and I've never been able to get past the beginning dungeon boss, the prison keeper guy, whatever, that big huge thing at the beginning. And what's funny is by using the trainer, I've got 2 profiles that I've got on Dark Souls 1, Prepare to Die edition, that does use DS Fix, which I don't really consider a mod because it basically fixes the game. But I did add some graphical upgrades, and I did some other things to it. But the trainer itself I only use for one of my profiles, and after 3 or 4 years of trying to start the game, not understanding, not having the mentality, the desire, or the basically committing to trying to figure out how to beat that boss, because I just felt it was useless and that it was something that I just couldn't do. It was overwhelming to me. On a second profile that I do not have modded, I have been able to do it on my own. I do believe that there's a steep learning curve for games like this for some of the older gamers that came from the Atari, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega, you know, then it went to 64, Dreamcast, PS2, regular Xbox. There's a lot going on with some of these, and the combat can be a little bit more intuitive than sometimes. I'm used to playing games like Zelda or God of War, where I sit there and just spam the X button or whatever button, the attack button. There's a lot more complexity with these games, and sometimes I don't have the mindset or the capability of wanting to put that type of effort into something if I do have downtime, free time. You know, there's always something else that I could be doing. I could be working on another video for my YouTube channel. I could be in the house repairing something. I could be working in the yard. I could be making money doing a side job. There's sky's the limit. You know, I could go for a walk with my kids. I could be teaching my 4-year-old how to do something, my 6-year-old how to ride a bicycle. So when I do sit down and finally have the time to do this, sometimes it's worth it to me to experience the playthrough with a handicap. I'm one of those people that anytime I play a game, I usually set it to easy. I don't care I'm in it more for the experience of the story. I don't need to have a challenge every time I play a video game. Sometimes it's just to take my mind off of the normal everyday adulting bullshit and to have something to kick back and do. I don't always have to have that feeling of overcoming something that was tough. I do enjoy the gratification with certain types of games. But I guess my biggest point is I've watched a lot of videos on Dark Souls in the last few days as I've been trying to get accustomed to some of these mods, as I've been working on trying to get used to trying to play it, you know, strategies, best this, best that, how to get a build, blah blah blah, noob this, beginner this. And you know, there seems to be like a really big divide, and you know, people are like really ruthless when it comes to, they really feel like if you can't play it like straight up, that like they'd rather you not even play it at all, or they would rather you like, you know, they look down upon you, and it's like, it's just a video game, guys. It's not worth all that. You know, I'll be honest with you, I mean, like, even for me with my mentality, even with the mods, you know, I still get lost. I still fall off of shit and die a lot. And but I mean, like, it's enough there to keep me entertained and to keep me involved, engulfed into the world, you know. And part of my reasoning is that like I do want to experience what these games have to offer, and without the help, and like I said, I'm not ashamed to say, yes, I know that I'm cheating, I know that I'm modding. I'm okay with that because there's a reason for it, and without these programs or without these extensions, these games would just sit in my Steam library and I would never do anything with them. And I 100% condone my actions because I paid the developers for their time. I've made sure they were compensated, and you know, there's so many people out there that go through and play these games right. I've watched like 3 videos of like speedrunners going through and making this game look like it's a piece of cake, and then, you know, I can't get past the graveyard trying to do what the people are doing in the first game without dying. Trying to speed run through in Dark Souls 2, the beginning path where you're going through the little forest area from the sewer, whatever it's called. Like, I can't do that. Going to the little castle area, like, I got obliterated. So it's, you know, no, I didn't sit down to like study it. I didn't like put that much effort into it. But again, I mean, like, I'm an adult. I'm 35 years old. I've been playing games since I can remember. But it's not a part of my life that I feel like it's that important. You know, I play video games once in a while. You know, I play with Ghost. We do live streaming with games. I still buy games. I'm all for games as a healthy, what would you call it? As a hobby. But gaming is not life for me. My channel is not a gaming channel. I get in moods here and there where I do enjoy playing games a little bit more consistently than other times, and I'll upload some type of content when it comes to these games, and you know, when I am feeling it. But then there's other times where, you know, I can go months without even touching a game on my computer, where I don't touch my Xbox as a gaming console. I just use it as a 4K Blu-ray player, and then, you know, I'm just stuck with my mobile phone gaming. But that's basically just logging into things every day and then not touching it again. But no, the biggest reason I wanted to make this video is because, you know, people, especially younger people, have to realize that there is a generation difference when it comes to video games. There's a lot going on with these games the more that technology advances, and some people, it can be overwhelming with the amount of things that are going on the screen. My eyesight's not what it used to be. I get really confused when there's so much going on. You know, the systems that I grew up with as a kid were very limited with the hardware, so you could only have so many enemies on the screen at a time. You could only have so much as the main focus. You know, a lot of the stuff that was in the games back then, you know, was pre-rendered backgrounds that weren't even made out of polygons and 3D textures. And you know, nowadays it's like, you know, people expect everybody to be able to just adapt to games that if you took a few years off in between a couple of, you know, console generations, or, you know, milestones with, you know, graphics technology, some of these newer games are a little bit they're hard for, I think, some of the older folks to be able to become accustomed to and adapt to. I get very overwhelmed playing some of the games with Ghost. Luckily, he understands the position I'm in, and you know, he knows that if he's playing something with me that, like, I'm gonna suck, and that, you know, we find a few games here and there that I actually enjoy playing, and I don't feel like I'm just going through the motions. And you know, it's basically more about the comic relief when it comes to it. But you know, I don't get so invested in most games that I take it personal. And you know, like I said, like for every game like a Dark Souls that I have to ease my way into and learn, there's another game that I could be enjoying that has less of a learning curve that I could get into quicker in a small amount of time here and there, that I have access to be able to play these games for some type of stress relief. You know, a game like Dark Souls, if you're not used to it, you didn't play Demon Souls, and you're not used to these type genre of games, however you want to put it, you know, they're really not stress relievers. They're kind of made to give you that on edge. You got to be focused, and you've got to know exactly what you're doing, and it's, you know, it gets your heart going, and you get engulfed into the game. And sometimes people like me, especially, you know, suffering from high anxiety and, you know, medical issues like that, you know, it makes it hard to be able to get into it. But like I said, with the mods and the cheats that I do use, it actually is kind of like a very I'm practicing. It's a practice thing, and like there are times where I'm able to learn the game enough. But I do have separate, like I said earlier, to reiterate, I do have separate profiles where I am legitimately, like, when I think I learned something, or I think that I know what I'm doing, I'll log off of, like, the modded profile, and I'll actually go try it. You know, when I realized, going back to Dark Souls 1, the prison boss, or whatever you want to call it, the asylum boss, that he really isn't that hard. And after watching some other videos where it's like, alright, you just don't let him fall on you, don't let him hit the club, and you could basically just like keep walking around behind him, and like, you know, even if you got a little small knife, you just sit there and like keep an eye on your stamina, and you poke him. Eventually, if he don't hit you, he's gonna die. And you know, using the roll button, and I'm not by nature a defensive player. I never block in fighting games. Ghost is always complaining to me about use the block button, you know, put your shield up on this, or blah blah. I'm just not used to doing that. I'm used to, like, I'm one of those idiots that charges head first and everything and just like spams some kind of attack button and then but I mean, that's just, again, that's just the way that I play and the way that it is. But the problem that other people would see with what I'm doing is actually the opposite, I think, of what their perception of what I'm doing is, because I've actually got involved with these games on a level that I would have never gave them a chance to begin with. And there's other things, like I ordered a copy of Dark Souls or Demon Souls for my PlayStation 3, so that I have a physical copy, and that also helps me condone the fact that I did download a ROM to use with the PS3 emulator on my computer so that I could, you know, test that out. I do want to try to do a legitimate playthrough or an attempt one with the skills that I've learned for my channel of Demon Souls. I don't think that I want that legitimate playthrough to be with the emulator though. There's still a few glitches here and there, and I'm just still skeptical on the reliability of that. So I would rather actually hook a PlayStation 3 up to my capture card and play that way. But I would have never even considered that to be a possibility if it wasn't for like spending a weekend modding these things and like going through, you know, checking my Steam library and going, oh yeah, I forgot that I had Dark Souls 1 and 2. And, you know, it really pisses me off that I spent this money on these games and I can't do anything with them. And then you'll start, oh, I think there's mods for those. Let's check and see what's, you know, what's changed in the last 3 years since the last time I tried. And then now it's like, oh man, I can beat that first dungeon boss. Let's see how farther I can get without any kind of help. And that's where I'm at now. I mean, like I got a little ways into the game before on my non-modded account, and I was kind of proud of myself for that. I'm also trying my best to figure out what the best paths are for myself. It kind of helps me out to learn the game with it modded. I don't know, I think I'm talking in circles at this point, and I'm really not trying to. It's just more or less, like I said, like in some of the videos, you know, people were acting as if like it was heresy for people to be doing mods and cheating. Other people, you know, don't care, but it just seemed like there was this purist community out there that was really, really hardcore about like anybody that's willing to do that should be like chained up, thrown into prison, and never be fed again. I don't take that as being even logical, because it's like, you know, I'm one of those kind of people that are like lit and lit live, live and lit live. You know, I don't care what anybody else does when it comes to their video games. I don't care how they play. I don't care, you know, you got your hardcore tryhards that always have to be number one. My son's like terrible about that, with like he'll get pissed off if he doesn't win every match in like Fortnite. And I'm just like, you know, why can't you enjoy a game? And he's, you know, well, what's the point of playing if you're not the best? And it's like, that is the like worst attitude I've ever heard in my life. Like, I've never played a game with that type of attitude. I've never even thought about having that kind of, you know, mindset when it comes to games. Games were just always like, hey, this is cool. Let's, you know, play the game. I never had this elitist attitude where I had to like prove myself to the world like I'm the best at this. And I mean, it's cool if people, you know, have that ability. And you know, part of the difference is the technology that was out when I didn't have those responsibilities, when I was still in school, before I became an adult and had children and had a job and had everything that I have to do. You know, if I'm pretty sure things would be different if this technology was around then. or if I was growing up at that age now. But you know, like I said, there is a divide there. And I have a hard time being able to, you know, relate to that whenever that's not the way that video games were for me growing up. You know, video games growing up for me was something that was like there. Like when I got in trouble and did something extremely stupid, punishment for me was my mom would be like, hey, you're not going outside to play today. You can go up there and play your Nintendo. And I was bummed out about that. Like, god dang, I gotta play the fucking Nintendo. Like, so I'd go pop Zelda in or Ocarina of Time or some other game and play that. Like, it wasn't that I was having a bad time, because I enjoy those games, but I would have rather been outside and hanging out with my friends and doing stuff, you know. So, like, you know, and I guess that attitude for me, or that way of gaming for me, is still the same. Like, I try to keep up with technology in just about every instance. I have to with my, you know, my job in real life. But it's also hard for me to be able to keep up with the demand of how some of these games are as complicated as they are, only because the technology is more advanced than it once was. So, I mean, I would say to anybody that would have a problem with what I do, like, I'm actually into this series. I've spent a whole weekend watching content on Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne. You know, I would have never considered up until 2 days ago even buying Dark Souls 3. I've decided that I want to still play 1 and 2 some, and get what, at least, even if I don't finish them all the way out, what I feel like is my money's worth out of them, to where I'm content with it. And then, you know, because, you know, I do want to play Demon Souls, and because I do intend on trying to give in these games a legit chance after what I consider my training period, I would like to see more games like this, you know, being produced in the future that, you know, I probably wouldn't worry about using some kind of cheat tool to be able to play it, because if I can get to the points where I'm used to these games and the way that they play with the, you know, the parrying and the blocking, the rolling, and more strategic, you know, if I get to the point where that's second nature, then I would love to be able to play more of these type of games in the future. So, well, I guess I've rambled enough about this topic. I really didn't mean or intend to make a video that was this long. But yeah, no, it's just, like I said, it was on my mind and something I was thinking about. So I guess I'm gonna let this video finish playing out with some of the footage of what my gameplay of some Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, because I did record it, so why not? There's no point in making multiple videos with it. So if you happen to be enjoying how terrible I am, even with full health, unlimited orbs, not orbs, souls, and like fully statted out, you'll still see me die here and there. And you'll still probably be like, oh my god, you should have done this, you should have done that. But yeah, so we'll catch you in the next one.
delivered the soul of an old one. That is more than most undead can say.
Solden. You probably have. Well, there's nothing.